Okay, hi Dad.
Hi Patrick, and welcome back.
Welcome to my show. Welcome to my documentary. Thank you for your welcome. Um, I'm wondering how you reacted when I told you I was going to do a documentary about the UK, having been away for 15 years.
Well, it's an interesting point. You're coming to the UK almost as a foreigner now because you've been away so long. So much has changed in the intervening period that it's very hard to see it as the same country.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. I do feel like I'm coming back to a foreign country because I've been away. What do you think's changed in that case in the time since I've been away?
Um, I think that politics hasn't worked in the UK at all. We're laden with debt now, and the welfare state is completely out of control. So the things that made the UK worth living in are starting to erode away.
You bought this house in the early 80s,
Yep.
mid 80s.
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to buy a house like this, would you now, as a
Oh, crikey,
normal
no,
working person?
no. I mean, this was. Let me have a think. This is 3 times my salary. This house. Now it would be. I would have to be earning probably about £400,000 in order to support a mortgage for a house like this.
So
It's just not possible.
It's not possible, and it's one of the reasons, I guess, why so many British people are leaving the country.
Well, it is, but we're almost being trapped into having to stay in our own houses because the taxes that are being applied to selling your house are so high that actually you cannot afford to sell.
Yeah.
So it's a reverse logic. So there's people like ourselves, just 2 people living in a house that can, as you know, accommodate 14. But there's only 2 of us because to sell it, we would lose so much money to the government that it's just not worth it. So we're occupying a house that a whole family could better use. But unfortunately, it's the way the economics are, it doesn't make sense for us to move.
Dad, as you know, I've been travelling around the country, and one of the most disturbing things I found is that people are scared to speak their mind in today's Britain. And that wasn't the Britain I left, or it certainly wasn't something anyone talked about, didn't talk about.
No, well, I mean, it really came to the fore with Alison Pearson, the journalist, who was visited by Essex police because of something that she tweeted. And they were more interested in prosecuting her for a non-crime hate incident than they were catching burglars. They're no interest in that. So they really want to just police what people are thinking. And that really takes us straight back to George Orwell in 1984.
It sounds absurd for me to hear that, but I know what you're saying is true. We're living in 1984.
Yeah. Well, if you take the recent objections to the immigrants coming across and living in hotels and being given money and health checks and all the rest of it, the government has done its level best to cut down any kind of objection to them being here, and then prosecutes people who say the wrong things in their mind, and they accuse them of being far-right fascists.
What system does this remind you of then? If it's not democracy, what is it?
Well, it's very close to the Soviet Union, or even Pol Pot or China, because we're being told what we can and can't think and what we can and can't say. And if you step out of line, then the forces of law will come against you.
Are you worried about doing this interview?
I have to be, yes, yeah, because you never know what retribution is going to flow from anything you say. And an unguarded word can be taken and misconstrued, and the next thing you know, you can be prosecuted for it.
So some people say, including Keir Starmer, that this is the country of free speech, and that's absolutely not true.
Well, when you get countries like America and vice presidents roundly criticising the UK for lack of free speech, then you've really got to be concerned.
One of the other disturbing things has been people saying that the UK is close to civil war, not just random people on the street that you might meet, but actual professors of war, like Professor David Betts. What do you think?
I personally think it's overstated. I think there will be local hotspots and there will be problems, there will be fighting, there will be cars burned, there will be looting, that sort of thing will happen. But then, hasn't it always? just the cause is maybe slightly different.
When you look back over your life, I mean, you've lived through some pretty momentous things, including nuclear war, threat of nuclear war, fighting against the evil empire of communism. Does this remind you of any period in time in the past?
Well, yes. I mean, if you go back to the 1970s, Britain was bust then. It had run out of money. It was pleading to the IMF to bail it out. Interest rates went up overnight to 15%, and then shot down again almost immediately, and we dropped out of the European exchange rate mechanism. So and inflation was running at a huge amount, and the amount of money that was having to be spent on servicing our country's debt was enormous. So the actual living standards of the people dropped considerably during that period.
In your opinion?
Well, I think governments. Well, let's start again. It's not the governments that are running the country; it's the civil service, and the civil service have always run the country. The politicians have just been the mouthpieces of the civil servants, and they're told what to do and what to think, and they have to pretty much toe the line. So the civil service has become more and more indoctrinated by left-wing views as a result of nearly everyone in the civil service going to universities and being fed a whole load of tosh by university professors who, quite frankly, always have a grievance because they always feel that their intelligence is never recognised, and therefore that they have a problem with anyone that makes more money than they do. And they indoctrinate the students, and the students then carry that through into the civil service, who are one of the biggest employers of that kind of person. And then that has infiltrated right through the civil service for all those years since.
So it sounds like a dangerous insurgency. It feels like Britain is going through an identity crisis, but when I ask people what does Britain stand for, which I think I have an answer to, most people I've asked have gone like this, and they haven't had a ready answer. Do you have a ready answer to that question? What does Britain stand for?
I think it traditionally stands for fair play, and fair play is being stretched to the limit at the moment. I mean, in Britain, everything is legal unless it's explicitly illegal. So you're allowed to say what you want, do what you want, but that is becoming more and more pressured, so that it's more difficult to hold that tenet that you are a free society and you can continue being free. I'm not sure that that's even true anymore.
I just been to Jaywick in Essex, which is the county next to Suffolk, as you know, and it was really different, the responses I was getting, to when I was in the centre of London at the Notting Hill Carnival. I had a lot of fun at the Carnival. And when I asked people, a lot of people there at the Carnival said, Britain is a multicultural success story. Do you think that's true?
I think it has been. It's been pretty good over the years because the numbers coming in were such that we could absorb them. And if you look particularly at the number of Asian people who are key people in the television industry, and they're fully accepted and just treated as anyone else. But I think the influx that's happening now, I mean, when you've got as many people coming in as occupy Nottingham every year, and the housing stock doesn't improve to house them, so rents go up. So the indigenous people are put under more and more pressure because rents are too high, they can't afford to buy a house, they're disaffected, and they don't know which way to turn. So I think that's the big difference between the relative certainties that we had growing up and the uncertainties that the current generations are faced with.
I'm thinking about your mum and dad now. And as we discovered quite recently, your dad served in the War Office in military intelligence between 39 and 43. What do you think they would make of today's Britain if they were alive today?
I think they'd be horrified in many ways. I mean, life is, I think we take for granted all the benefits that we have that they didn't have. I mean, life was fairly hard for them, and they were brought up just after the First World War. Um, Men only got the vote in 1918. All men.
Full men, yeah.
And women not till 1929. So their lives weren't straightforward. They had their difficulties, and we didn't live. We were middle class, but we didn't live particularly well. Nothing like as well as people expect to live now.
When you were a child, did you have lessons in patriotism? Do you feel like school gave you that example of what Britishness meant? You stood at attention and to the national anthem, that kind of thing.
No, not explicitly. It's nothing like the sort of mind warping that the Americans do, having to sing to the flag every morning. There was nothing like that. But we were told to believe in God. We were told to, as cubs and scouts, we were told to honour the flag, honour the king or honour the queen. We were told the difference between right and wrong, and if you did something wrong, you found out fairly quickly that it was the wrong thing to do. I mean, I remember on one occasion, my brother ran away from home, and I was explicitly told not to go and look for him. And I, as a sort of 8-10-year-old child, decided I would go and look for him, and I found him. Went back home, told my parents where he was, and my father went out to get him. And then my mother beat me severely for having disobeyed her order. I mean, literally beat me with a stick. So I felt a great sense of injustice at that, because I felt that he was the one that should have been beaten, not me. So I did the right thing and got a whipping for it.
Yeah, okay, I'm not quite sure about the logic behind that, but that's old school parenting for you.
Yeah.
I'm one of 3 boys, and your younger son, my brother Jeremy, is living in New York. What's it like for a parent to have your children go abroad like that?
It's like a bereavement. It's similar to the bereavement you suffer when they go to university, because you've spent the whole of their life nurturing them and looking after them and bringing them up, and then suddenly you're redundant. You're no longer in that role, and it's the same when they move abroad. It becomes even more remote, so that you can have less and less influence over their lives. And it's actually quite a painful experience. And I think it's much worse for mothers than it is for fathers, because fathers are used to seeing their young ones spread their wings and go. And in fact, they encourage their children to be independent, whereas mothers tend to hold the child more to them for a lot longer. So it's much harder for them to break free. Whereas for a man, it's that much easier. So I can't really talk other than as a man.
Yeah.
But yeah, having you so far away means we see you so infrequently. I mean, fortunately, we do have things like the internet, and we can talk on a regular basis, and we can exchange banter, which frequently we do. And even 20 years ago, that would have been impossible. It would have been letters and the occasional phone call on a very crackly line. So it's very much different. We can keep in touch with you, although physical presence is pretty important too.
If you'd been my age when I moved to Poland, so I was 27, I think, if I remember rightly, when I moved to Poland, would you have considered going abroad? Was that even an option for you when you were in your mid-20s?
Oh, it could have been, yes. Yeah, it could have been. I wasn't... I was too stupid to do it, I think. I mean, I did move away from home and went to live in digs, and I moved into London for a period of time, and that was a big period of growing up for me.
Yeah. If you could move, let's just imagine you're 25 now, do you think you've got more economic opportunity in Britain or abroad?
I don't know, because I don't know what the opportunities are abroad, but my impression is you've got nothing to lose by trying, because at the moment the opportunities for you here to get married, have children, own a home, be financially secure are not that strong. So you might as well give it a try, go and do something else.
Yeah. I think as the years have gone by, I've thought about coming back to the UK from time to time, and it's still thinking about it. But the one thing that would stop me would be the tax system, which is absolutely crippling, especially when you've lived abroad and then you look back at what people pay. I believe the tax share is now at the highest since it's been since World War II, since you were, you weren't even born then, but a few years later you were born, So all of your lifetime, it's never been this high. Now you guys are retired. I just can't imagine ever coming back to this country paying something like 50% tax, or God forbid even more.
Well, 50% might be quite light, actually. I mean, I still pay 40% tax on most of my pension.
In other words, the money that you saved up for this time, which you already paid.
The money that went into my pension pot, which had to be earned or provided by my company, is now taxed at 40%. And for people who are still paying into a pension, if you go over a certain limit, then they start charging you income tax on what's going into your pension, even though you might not be drawing it for the next 30 years. So you're paying today for money that you're saving for tomorrow.
So to make it simple, you pay tax on the income you made, including the stuff that goes into your pension. Then you pay tax on the pension that you draw down. If you save any of that money, and let's say, God forbid, you pass away, the money that you've saved would also get taxed before it got sent to your family.
Yes, at 40% again.
40% again.
So whatever is left of my estate on my passing will go to you boys, but the government would take 40% of that straight off the top, even though that I've paid tax on that money 2-3 times over.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't want to offend anyone in Britain, but it seems to me you'd have to be remarkably stupid to sign up to that contract. That's a really bad deal.
Well, it's the only way of financing the welfare state. The only way you can be as generous to the less deserving is by taxing those who make money more and more. There is no other way other than cutting the services you provide to people who are less deserving, perhaps.
I've heard from people that the benefits bill should be expanded and not made smaller. What do you think?
Well, if it is, it's got to be paid for. And at the moment, we can't afford what we are spending. We're having to borrow money, 200 billion, I think, this year, is being pumped into good causes, into public spending and the rest. It's money we don't have. So sooner or later, somebody has to pay for it. And it won't be my generation, it'll be the next.
Yeah. So given everything we've talked about today, do you think Brits living abroad, such as myself and my friend Guy, should be coming home at this particular time?
I mean, at a personal level, we'd love to have you home. Some do come home because when they get old and ill, being ill in a foreign country and not being able to speak the medical language can be a real problem. And I know a lot of sort of the older Brits who have retired to Spain and Portugal and Greece and countries like that do actually make their way back home. But somebody of working age, would they want to come back into the UK? Possibly, but they would find the cost of living so appallingly high that they might find that their living standards would have to drop in order to be here.
Dad, a couple of questions about Poland since we're here.
Yep.
You've been coming to Poland irregularly over the last few years. How's the country changed for you?
I think Poland has softened in the sense that the people, when we first went to Poland, people were a bit like the Russians, very expressionless. They didn't want to show emotion in any way, and because emotions gave you away. And I think there's this hangover in Poland that people still believe that you should not show any kind of emotion. But what I found that people in private were full of emotion and very capable of interacting, even with people they couldn't speak to, like us. But I would say it's now become a much more service industry than ever it was when we first went there. That service levels have improved and they don't treat foreigners with such coldness. They're warmer towards foreigners than perhaps they used to be.
Yeah. Every time I come back and I'm reading the Telegraph, I seem to see an article about Poland. The Polish military is getting bigger than ever before. Do you see those all the time as well?
Oh yes, yes, yes. I mean, Poland is held up as an example of what you should do, particularly in terms of military spending and gearing up for what might be inevitable.
Do you think Poland has a better idea of its identity than the UK?
I think it has higher levels of obvious patriotism. You only see it on Poland Day, millions of flags that come out, where everyone is
Independence Day.
Independence Day, yes, where everyone is very keen to fly the flag and be proud of it. And I think it's less so in the UK. We're almost embarrassed to be British.
And it's true to say that up until even now, flying the British flag probably is a sign that you're a racist.
Oh, racist! Yes, yes.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah,
How can
it is.
flying your national flag, St George's Cross or the Union flag, be racist?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's considered by a lot of
We are
people to
probably
be.
in the post.
I looked at your cufflinks. You've got the Union
I've always
flag
done
on
this.
there. I've got some with the George's Cross on, and I was doing some work in Scotland, and I was told to take them off. Yeah.
May I ask what work?
I was working for a Scottish company. We were advising them on. Actually, what they did was they refurbished jet engines that go out on oil rigs. But that's by the by.
By the by.
I had to turn.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to turn the cufflinks round so that the back of the cufflink was showing, not the front.
Dad, do you think it's time for the United Kingdom to disunite?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Scots would sink without trace if they did, particularly if the Barnett formula was wiped out, because the amount of money that goes to individual Scots from the public purse is far greater than it is in England. So money is being transported to Scotland all the time.
Dad, thank you very much for spending this time talking with us and
Pleasure.
getting this crew around as well. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you, team.